The Torchlight Brigade, bringing the light and justice of O12 to the far reaches of the humans. Well, except that these guys that find morality a cute idea and would charge headlong into battle carrying a broadsword that would give Cloudbuster's sword a run for its money. And they wouldn't even think twice about drop-kicking a space nun. Today we're painting the Helldiver. Hellblazer. Hellblazer. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, it's a Hellblazer, not a Helldiver. I'm afraid I decided to start speaking to camera more, and of course, when I start speaking to camera more, I get things like this. Oh, jeez. I'm sure you're not going to stop noticing it. Before we get underway, I just want to say a big thank you for everyone that went and watched my latest video on painting with a starter set. It did far better than I was expecting, and yeah, it brought a lot of new people to the channel. So welcome if you're one of them. Thank you very, very much for coming back. But you know what? The video footage sucked from that video, and to be honest, I almost didn't even upload it to begin with. But fear not, we're going into 4K. Well, we're actually still in 1080p HD, but the recording is in 4K, and it wasn't very easy to do so. So there were a few bumps along the way, so that's why it's taken me a little while to kind of paint this model and get the video out. So you better enjoy the increased fidelity, okay? Anyway, let's get on with painting this awesome model. If you know Infinity, then you know that the Torchlight Brigade was recently released, and there were some parallels drawn to another sci-fi big tough dude in armor game whose name seems to slip my mind. And this wasn't helped with the blue color scheme mixed with Roman Empire aesthetics. I'm not a fan of that particular color choice, and I never really found the O12 scheme that appealing for me. You know, personal preference and everything. So I'm going to go ahead and do my own thing. Okay, see if you like it. These space paladins that lack any scruples are supposed to be as much of a symbol as an army. So I wanted to do something with a bit of punch and pizzazz. So let's go for a striking red. It has nothing to do with the fact that my favorite chaos god is Khorne. Oh no. Paint me, mortal! Shut up, Angron. We got started with a base coat of dark purple, which was then airbrushed with a dark red. I used Pro Acryl Purple and Coal Black for the base coat, and Burnt Red for the next coat. I've been finding the Pro Acryl paints rather good for use in the airbrush, with very little clogging and a pretty smooth flow. The red was applied with a zenithal highlight, but a little more generously so that only some of the purple was left in the deep shadows. Then, with a white ink, the model got a zenithal highlight. This, of course, knocks out any saturation we have got on the model and pales much of the surface of it. But, ye of little faith, it is all a means to get even more saturation, as the following spray of payroll. I never know how to pronounce that one. The payroll red is made even more vibrant thanks to the white undercoat. Now, not only that, but it then fades naturally into the darker shadows as well. So, it's a pretty nice finish. Now, you may be saying, hey, you said that the video fidelity was going to be great. Why is it still so muddy? Well, that's because I filmed the airbrushing before my previous video went out, and I realized just how horrible the footage was. But now we move on to the brushwork. We're going for the best video clarity that I'm capable of with my meager equipment that I have. And the first thing we had to do was block out the base colors of the model. Much of the model was going to have a bright, clean, blue, non-metallic metal finish, which began with a dark Prussian blue base coat. The areas of what I call the under armor, which is like underwear that can sometimes show or be on show, that still gives you a little protection from stray bullets, was going to be a muted green. The red and blue colors are going to be pretty intense, so it's good to balance this with a muted color somewhere on the model. Otherwise, everything will be vying for attention and make a visual mess. To do that, I went for our good old AK deep green mixed with black. I thought it a good idea to paint the green with their highlights first, as there were few areas and they were easy to avoid when painting the rest of the armor. To keep the highlights muted, I simply mixed AK white a little at a time for each progressive highlight. It mixed with the black that was already present in the mix on the palette and kept the green a nice kind of pale grey green. Now came the slog, highlighting the red, and because there was a lot of red, it was definitely going to be a bit time consuming. The airbrushing did a lot of work for me, and although it helps give volumes to your model, the airbrush work does not define angles and reflections particularly well. So that was what I added with the brush. Using AK Scarlet and White, I worked through areas of the model at a time, adding a rough highlight with the Scarlet and working it up with progressive increments of White added to the mix. It's possible to do the whole miniature in one tone and then move up to the next tone and so on, finishing the model faster that way, but I prefer to paint a particular part of the miniature all the way up to its highest highlight and then do the process again on another part of the model. It is more time consuming, but I make less mistakes and it feels more rewarding when that little bit you did already starts to look awesome. Only another 99 panels to go! Yay! With the reds painted, it was time to move to the blue. The red had a more subtle change of light, but the blue was going to have a much bigger contrast. Using the dark Prussian blue, I wanted to work this colour up through AK's deep blue to archaic turquoise to white. Just as before, I worked on one area of the model at a time and did the full transition from dark to light. As this was NMM, sudden contrasts were key.
What's this NMM you talking about?
Ooh, NMM, that's non-metallic metal, mate.
I think you'll find that's NMMM.
I also find that to help sell this effect when using layering, it's good to stroke the brush consistently in the same direction. Without doing so can make a mess of your model and may ruin the transitions you have been so carefully building. With all the main colours down on the miniature, I moved to the skin tones and used a range of colours from the Vallejo Nocturna series, a set called Fairy Flesh. These paints have a wonderful vibrancy and they're my favourite colours to choose for vibrant skin tones. I actually painted this bust with this set of paints and this was the first time using them. I was really happy with the results. I found painting the eyes on this guy an absolute pain because of the angle of the head. I eventually had to settle on just darkening the sockets as I could not get the whites of the eyes in very well. If I was someone who'd think ahead a little bit more, maybe I would do a sub-assembly with this guy, just so I could do that, but oh well. To bring some attention to his weapons of war, I thought adding some gold or bronze would help draw some attention to them. Again, I was going to paint them in NMM. I find Infinity miniatures with their clean sci-fi aesthetic and anime influence tend to work particularly well with non-metallic metal, so I'm afraid you will not see me use metallic paints with them. But for this particular gold, I based with Vallejo model color Leather Brown. This was then mixed with some AK Deep Orange, but I never went to pure orange. Before that, we mixed in some AK Deep Yellow, and before we finally went with an AK White mixed in for the brightest highlights. The approach is always coming from the darkest tones and layering up to the brightest, keeping brushstrokes consistent and keeping the previous layer visible to make the transitions visually appealing. Once complete, then edges are highlighted with the brightest tone. It's a quick approach that I've found very effective. Coming back to the head of the model, I took the leather brown I had been using and used this for the hair. Adding a little bit of Vallejo Game Color Scrofulous Brown, I added highlights to the hair and mixed a little white for the final touches to give the Hellblazer some dirty blonde brown hair. Then it was just a case of adding the final touches to the model. I painted the shotgun a simple grayscale non-metallic with some desert brown to break it up a little bit. For the hilt of the blade, I used an AK black, deep blue, archaic turquoise and white. But rather than making the tones intense like on the armor, I knocked out the saturation with the black and the white to give a black-blue shine. And after a couple of small touches, the Hellblazer was ready for insertion. Yes, I know the base is not done, but that will be for a future video where I go over making sci-fi bases using plasticard. But for now, I think the Hellblazer came out pretty striking, and I much prefer this intense red colour to the box art blue. But what do you think? What colour scheme would you paint your Torchlight Brigade? If you do have it or not. And why not? Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, why not check out one of my other videos that I've done in the past. I've got a bit of a backlog of stuff that you can check out, so why not click on one of these videos you see up here. Okay, thank you, and goodbye. Today we're painting the Helldiver. I mean, Helldiver. No. Paint me! That's probably enough.